Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today we are going to be doing a how to oil your saddle video. I've actually had quite a few people ask me on how I do it, and I did think I do it slightly differently than most people do it. Honestly, I just use neat's foot oil. This is just straight neat's foot oil. I have it in a different container. I have used a couple towels. I use a wet towel, and that's in my hands, and that's about it. So I start off with a wet towel, just kind of clean up anything that might be dirty. So like this is my Corriente strip down saddle. I've used this for about 2 months. I've had it for about 2 months. And the way that I oil my saddles gets them broken in really, really quickly because I use so much oil. I oiled this like 3 times before I ever rode in it. So there's not the pain for break-in time, especially with Corrientes because they tend to be really stiff. But what I do is I take apart the whole thing pretty much. So I take off any, the cinch and breast collar, anything, and then I take apart all of this. I even put oil on this part. This is the blemish buckle off of it. I will oil that. I will oil the stirrup hobble on both stirrups. I'll clean those up. And I take off the stirrup, and then I just basically, even the rough out, I will kind of wipe it down if it's dirty. But when I get a new saddle, I oil it first off. So we'll put some pictures in here of the day I got the saddle. It's totally different color. And then a few days later, because since the way I oiled this, it was pretty much broken in by like the 4th ride, which is really quickly. So what I do is I will spray and oil the bottom side of the fender here. I will oil the bottom of this part of the fender. I will oil this part. And then what I do with the stirrup is I pull them out and I oil this part also. I think this part people rarely oil this part, but you're supposed to oil every part of your saddle. But I think this is one part that's not thought about much. So I will oil this also slightly dirty. Let me wipe it down a little bit. But what I do is I apply plenty of oil to all parts of it and I rub it in with my hands. That's the most effective way I have found to oil my saddles, because a sponge will soak it up too much and a towel doesn't work, and if you use other things, they tend to soak up the oil and then you can't get up in there. So that's what I do. And so especially when I get a new one, I'll put lots of oil on it, then I'll let it soak, oil it again, let it soak in a little bit, like literally I use a pint or to a quart of oil on a brand new saddle. I oil this underneath here, and then I'll usually take a towel, like put it over the seat if it's rough out, like this one is a rough out saddle. I'll put it over the seat, and then I will pull this out a little bit, and then lay it over the top, and then put a lot of oil on the underside of the fender, and then let that in. So that's how I do the underside of the fender. And so I will do that with the fenders and then this part. And I will oil the carved out portion of the saddle, like up here and everything, but I don't do that as much because it's smooth out and it's not a high strain portion of the saddle. So it doesn't really need it as much. But the fender and everything, the parts that are supposed to be pliable to your legs and then the horse and everything, the parts that are supposed to be pliable, I will oil those a ton. But as you can see, I literally just put oil on this. And this is not the first time this saddle's been oiled. This is probably the 12th time I've oiled this saddle. So these take a lot of oil. So that's basically how I do that. And then I also, especially with the new ones, I will take this, because I love this spray bottle, I will squirt the oil all the way up in there, up by the tree, and kind of rub it the best I can. And then I will actually pull the stirrup levers back and forth to distribute the oil up in there. And you can see that takes the oil right off of that. and then that way it makes make sure that all the oil gets up in there too, and it helps the stirrups stay more pliable and stay better condition. So that's what I do on that part, and I've not heard of people doing that. That's just one thing just I figured out from doing it. I usually put a towel on my lap to keep myself from getting covered in oil, because that does happen when you're doing this. But anyway, so I will clean up like the tool portion of it. I'll clean that up, and then I just sprayed a light coating of oil on it. So like this up here, I just put a light coating of oil on it, but I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. And then the flank cinches, if they're, now some of them are rough out occasionally, but I will clean those up, especially since they tend to get real nasty. And then I will spray both sides of them with oil also. Same with the flank cinch itself. I will spray that with oil, rub it in, and then I let it sit and soak. And then I do it again and again until it doesn't soak as much. So this saddle, when I first get new saddles, I will oil them like every evening. Even if I'm riding them in them during the day, I will oil it every evening and then let it sit. And then the other thing I do is I turn the stirrups. Now the first time I do this, I do it with water. So like after I've oiled it for the night or whatever, I put it back together, and then put this back together. So after I've oiled it for the night, I take it, and because my saddle stand's metal, I take the stirrup hobble and I run it through the stirrup and around the bar on the saddle stand, and I buckle it. And that's how I turn the stirrups. But what I do is I get water, I'll get a washcloth or whatever, and I'll get a pan of water. I'll soak the washcloth in the water, and then press it into the fender, into the rough out side of it, I will. And then I'll turn it and twist it, and then I'll tie it like that. I'll do both of them that way. And then at the every time I oil it after that, I don't use water, but just after I oil it, I will buckle it like this. And with just oil, it will stay like this also. So any of the color changes that you'll see in the pictures are from sun and riding, pretty much, because this was a lot lighter when I got it. But I only oiled the smooth out portion of it. I did not oil the rough out. You never want to oil the actual rough out part of it, because that can ruin the rough out. But I will oil the bottom part of it and everything else. And I mean, like the bottom of the fenders too. But I just don't put oil on the rough out, because that's very bad for the rough out. Some people do, but then your rough out's not rough anymore. It smooths out. So anyway, that's a basic gist of how I oil my saddles. It works really, really well for me, and my saddle is very nicely broken in. It was broken like so quick, because especially this Corrientes, they tend to be really stiff. Like when you first get them, you can see it in my Corriente strip down unboxing video. You can see that it's somewhat stiff. Oiling it really helps get it pliable again. So anyway, the method I do works really well. I know some people do it other ways, but I've not seen a saddle get broken that quickly. Biggest thing I will caution you on, if you have a leather horn, don't put much oil on the horn, because shortly after I got it, like my third ride in the new saddle, I had oiled it a bunch, of course. I usually don't put a lot on the horn, but I did put a little bit on the horn. Well, I was trotting down a hill, and then we were making really tight corner at like trot or lug, whatever. And I kind of lost my balance and went to go off the side, and I went to grab the horn, and my hand slipped off the horn because it was oil. And so I did not fall off. But that kind of gave me a little heart attack. So just be careful if you're gonna put oil on the horn. You probably need to some, but just make sure there's no residual on there. Otherwise, it could turn out really bad, especially when you need a high rate of speed. Been there, done that. So anyway, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have any more questions, just please leave a note. We will be happy to answer any way that we can. And thank you for watching.